All right, Mike, we are going to talk about an artist who is actually dropping new music in 2026. And we've tried to schedule this episode to come out around the time that this artist releases his new album, which is as of now, and I've seen marketing for it, so I'm sure it's going to stay this title, The Romantic Bruno Mars.
Yeah.
We, we talked about the first single, I Just Might, and I think you liked it a little bit better than I did, but it's solid. There's nothing wrong with it.
It's fine.
And so we put a YouTube short on our YouTube page if you want to check that out, where we kind of talked about it right as it dropped that week or that weekend. But we're going to talk about 2010's Doo-Wop and Hooligans. Now, in 2010, how old are we?
We are 34.
Okay, so heading towards around mid-30s.
Yeah.
Much different than some of the other years that we've already discussed.
Yeah, we took a big jump.
And so where are you at this time and place in 2010? Where are you spiritually, musically, headspace? What can you remember about that time frame?
Not much. 2010, I was living in Boston. So that would have come during my my little extended vacation in Boston, which lasted 8 years. And truthfully, I don't remember much else from that time other than, I've had the same job for 20 years. So I was working for the same company I work for now. Um, certainly doing a different job then. The world was a much different place. Um, so yeah, but I mean, in terms of specifics, like 2010 is one of those years where like I literally don't remember anything specific. Was opinion still a thing in 2010? I might have still been writing for
I don't think
nah.
so.
Yeah.
I left in 20. Let me see. I left in 2007, early
Okay.
2008. I don't know how much longer it existed after that, but probably if it did exist, it's not much longer after that. So,
Yeah, I want to say I started my blog in either 2010 I started my blog when Sade's last album came out, which would have been 2010. So 2010 was the year Pop Blurred started. I was still writing for Pop Matters at that time, for a few other sites. So I was fully engaged in like the blog era of music criticism. Um, but yeah, I mean, now I'm starting to like patch little bits and pieces together. But otherwise, 2010 just kind of like rolls into everything else.
for me, anything post 1999, where I'm going to time and place myself is basically the age of my kids. And
Mm,
so in 2010, I have a 9 going on, no, 10 going on 11 and 9 going on 10. And so that's where I am in that space, is whatever they were doing, probably
is what
uh
you were doing.
but yeah, they're playing hoops. We're not into the travel ball quite yet. That would come a couple of years later, where my weekends were entirely about taking them to their games. But um music, from a music standpoint, this is what's interesting. And there's another album that I think we're going to talk about where this is a much bigger memory, but uh are able to kind of go, "Oh, I want to listen to that music. I have an iPod, probably the one of the thin ones, uh, um, or a shuffle, or whatever the tech was back then." And
Yeah, I would have been deep in my iPod era.
I remember making playlists for them and helping them sync up their stuff to my computer, and you know downloading songs specifically for them that were entirely not for me at all, which is a little bit
Oh,
of a different thing at that point, whatever was the kid thing going on at that point. But an album that we may talk about later, Watch the Throne, that was an album where I actually bought both the normal version and the edited version because I know they really wanted it. And now look, it's, that album comes out, and they could have they were at the age on whatever version they wanted, but I wanted to purchase and put the version of that album on their device as I saw fit as a parent. So I actually bought both
Yeah,
versions
I
of that
mean,
album.
right on. Yeah, I mean, if I had an 11 and a 10-year-old, I would not want them listening to the explicit version of Watch the Throne.
Yeah. So okay,
So I get it.
so Bruno Mars, he was somebody that we kind of saw coming. Now, you being much more close to the industry probably would have seen him even before I would have, because he was, writing stuff and I'm sure he was in some of the trades as somebody to keep an eye out on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the first I heard of Bruno Mars was "Nothing on You" by B.o.B, which was probably also the first time you
That's
heard
the
of
first
Bruno
time I
Mars.
heard him too, yeah.
Yeah. So that song blew up, and it was just like both of them. It felt like kind of came out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it was just this like big thing.
We're gonna talk about that song a little bit, but this is not a B.o.B episode. But what happened to my guy?
The last I remember hearing about B.o.B, he was on some Kyrie flat earther kind of stuff, and I was like, oh, we can't
9/11
mess with
was an
this cat
inside
anymore.
job, that kinda
Yeah,
stuff.
he was on some. He went way down a rabbit hole he didn't need to go down, and I was like, okay, dude, like I'm switching you off.
Which is a
He was
shame.
he was the first rapper to do a song with Taylor Swift.
Right. His first 2 albums were very smartly done, I thought.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
they were able to cross over to a few different genres, and even he's got a song with, Andre 3000 called "Play My Guitar," which is a really good. But then, like, he falls off completely, and, I would see him come up in, Apple Music from time to time, and I would go, "Oh, I wonder what this guy's doing," and then I'd turn it on and go, "Wait a second here, what is going on with this dude?" Like, the
Stop.
music is not
Yeah.
even, because what he was really good at was, like I said, blending the genres and crossing over to a few different categories, and, he was like a
Right, because like,
hardcore rap something, and I was like, "Okay, this is not the B.o.B that I remember."
yeah, not the same dude. Like his first album had Haley Williams from Paramore on it and Rivers Cuomo from Weezer.
Yeah.
So he was definitely going for like a different kind of audience. And I think had he stayed in that realm, I mean, I guess the second album didn't do so well, and maybe the label dropped him or whatever. But he had something going for a minute, and then I think brother just fell off the deep end. I hope Bruno writes him a check every now and then.
Now, I was looking this up, and it sounds like the idea of Bruno Mars goes all the way back to, like, the mid 2000s. Um,
Okay,
and there was a signing to Motown that never really nothing ever came out of it. Um, and it wasn't until he joined up with the Smeezingtons, which was the production team of he and Philip Lawrence and Ari Levine. And then they began writing for others just as a way to kind of, get their careers going. Um, so some pre-debut, some pre Doo-Wop and Hooligans writing credits, Flo Rida's Round and Round.
oh wow.
And he's got a credit on CeeLo FU song.
Which makes sense. If you listen to that song, it sounds like a Bruno Mars song.
Right, and CeeLo Green will come up in a second again, as we
Oh,
discuss this. But of course, the first time that people really hear him is B.o.B.'s "Nothing on You," and then Travie McCoy's "Billionaire" as well. So
right,
both of
right.
those songs, it's kind of like it kind of reminds me a little bit now, not exactly, but you and I were eagerly anticipating The College Dropout by Kanye because of we knew that he was producing all of these songs. And, just back then we were able to, there were actually hip hop magazines and stuff. And you could read about, oh, like, check this guy out, keep an eye on this guy. And so
Right.
Kanye's doing all this stuff. And then the College Dropout comes out. And we're like, oh, I kind of want to Hey, now I stopped wanting to hear about what Kanye West has to say post Life of Pablo, I guess. But that this is kind of similar to Bruno Mars because you're like, oh, that guy that's on that song. Now I want to go look into his background and what he does. And now he's actually got an album coming out. I'm paying attention to this dude. I have you know, opening day tickets to Doo-Wops and Hooligans because I'm just really interested in what this thing sounds like.
Right. I would actually compare him in a few different ways, actually, because I actually think, a joke that I've made is that Bruno Mars basically stole Neo's career.
That's another one that I was thinking of too.
Yeah. But Neo came up writing for these people, like he wrote Let Me Love You for Mario and a couple of other songs before he came out on his own and blew up. So there was this anticipation, this buildup from this guy who's like singing hooks and writing songs and doing all that kind of thing. They kind of followed the same blueprint.
Okay, so I was thinking about we had a we did an episode. We've done an episode on Lionel Richie, his self-titled debut. And I was thinking about
Hmm.
descendants. Now, Usher, clear descendant of Michael Jackson from the stage act, from the style that he sings. Justin Timberlake as well, like very much like there's a blueprint that they followed. And I was looking at Bruno Mars and I was like, there's different elements of different things in here. But I wonder what you thought about him being more closely the descendant of Lionel Richie than maybe anybody else, all the way down to kind of the corniness. Like and again, not a pejorative thing. I think this is a charming part of Bruno's personality. But like you listen to some of the songs on the first album and you're like, okay, this is kind of cute in any way. It's not necessarily cool, but it's kind of cute and a little bit corny. And that's some of the stuff that we were talking about in our Lionel episode.
You got a point. That didn't occur to me, but as I think about it, as you say it, it makes sense. From a songwriting standpoint, like definitely Bruno has the ability to write uh, very like lyrically adept love songs and can kind of throw something in there just to kind of make them cute or weird or cool or like whatever.
Or
But his
whatever the trend is at that moment, Bruno's
Yeah,
going to take advantage of it, which is not great for looking back because then you have to remember what the hell he was talking about at that point. But in the time and place, he's really on top of those trends.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
So, uh, the album is released October 4th, 2010, Doo-Wops and Hooligans. Um, it was a do you remember what you thought was actually good in music around that time frame? Because he comes in and at least to me, it felt like, okay, this was much needed. Like we needed this album. We needed this
Like a breath
dude.
of fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy. I haven't done a whole lot of research into what was popular in 2010. Um, you mentioned Watch the Throne, and I would have actually put that as later on. Um, but it's kind of hard to remember what I was listening to at the time. It doesn't really, off the top of my head, it doesn't really strike me as a year when there were like lots of great records out.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that as we do this show, what is apparent to me, and some of this has to do with where you are in your time of life, but
Mm,
choosing the albums that we actually wanted to discuss, like in the 80s and the 90s, like we had so many options.
it's
We're
super
like,
easy.
yeah.
Yeah,
And we're like crossing ones off, going like, oh man, how do we fit this one in? But 2010s and after, it gets a lot harder, right?
yeah,
Because there's not a lot of stuff that is necessarily speaking to us as we age up. And I guess that makes sense because music tends to try and speak to younger people,
young
right?
people. Yeah,
So
yeah.
it makes sense in that way. Okay, do you know the story behind the name of Bruno Mars?
I do not.
Okay, so my man's government name is Peter Gene Hernandez. He has said when he was a baby, his pops named him Bruno because his infant newborn or his newborn son looked like the pro wrestler from the 60s and 70s, Bruno
Bruno
Sammartino.
Sammartino? Say word.
That's the story that Bruno Mars tells. And so when Bruno Mars first told this story, he said this old wrestler who was kind of fat and stodgy. And Bruno Sammartino today, if you look at him, like he was kind of like a muscular guy, but he was a big guy. Back in the 60s and 70s, he was kind of like a muscle guy, but
Mhm.
the physiques are much different today than they were.
Than they were then,
So
absolutely.
so at some point before, the legendary Bruno Sammartino passed away, he and Bruno Mars were able to meet, and Bruno was able to see who the reason for his namesake was. So that was pretty
Wow.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what Bruno Mars looked like as a baby, but I just Googled a photo of Bruno Sammartino, and they look nothing alike.
No, no, not today.
I
Not at
don't know
all
where that
today.
resemblance was coming from.
Well, it's like I've always had this theory that every newborn, like, right when they come out of mom, they look exactly like Mike Tyson.
That is
'Cause
hilarious.
Mike's got
I
the flat face, right? And some of
Right.
that is because of punches he's had to take, but Mike has this, like, really flat face, and sometimes it just looks swollen, and that's how babies look when they come out of moms.
I'm gonna have to look at some pictures of Mike Tyson and then some pictures of babies and make a comparison there.
All right. So, the meaning of the album title, Doo-Wops, refers to the romantic melodic songs for the ladies, while Hooligans represents the rock and reggae tinged bad boy energy for the guys. Talked about this a little bit in our Tupac episode, where there's this idea of, who you make music for. You have to have some songs for the ladies, but you also have to have some songs for the guys, which is to say you want your music to be a little bit more well-rounded because that's how you gain in popularity. If the ladies are enjoying your stuff, you don't want your concert to be only ladies. You also want them to bring their significant
Bring
others
their
so more people
Right.
come.
Right. I mean, I wonder if that was even a marketing strategy back in the day. Like when Michael and Quincy made Thriller, were they like, "Oh, we need a song for the dudes in here and we need a song for the ladies?" And if so, what song on Thriller is for the dudes? Beat It, I guess.
Beat It, I guess. Yeah, Beat It. I don't know, maybe if we're dudes fans of American Werewolf in London, because Thriller videos similar to that. But yeah, at some point, well, and Michael is probably a bad example because he was so, like, everybody loved him. Like, it didn't matter race or creed or like, everybody just loved him. Maybe except for the Jehovah Witnesses, didn't love his music. But there are certain artists, and if you think about how music is segmented, like, music itself puts itself in boxes, right? It's like, oh,
Sure,
here's
absolutely.
rock, here's country. Like, I
Oh
just
yeah.
saw something where, some of the country artists who are not happy with our political climate, they're getting kind of ostracized from their own genre. And I know that's
Yeah.
not new, but the genre in itself in music kind of speaks to, like, a specific demographic.
Right. Right.
All right. Making of Doo-Wops and Hooligans. So, Lev Studios in Hollywood was, what I found, in the research, is where they primarily made the album, and the, engineer, Ari Levine, said it was so modest that they literally only had one microphone in the studio. So they focused on something that they called heartbeat music. Um they agonized over, Grenade, which they say took several months to write. They had the melody, but they couldn't find the right lyrics to match the bodily harm for love theme of that song. Um, the tech and the live instrumentation was described as, kind of an in the box digital production. Runaway Baby features a heavy soul rock beat influenced by James Brown, while the Lazy Song during a time frame in which they were just bored and did not feel like doing anything and turned it into a song.
To a song.
Yeah, which is
Gotta,
hilarious.
sometimes there's inspiration even when there's no inspiration.
Yeah, and Bruno insisted on some reggae influences leading to the Damian Marley collaboration for Liquor Store Blues. Now, I mentioned the CeeLo Green was going to come back here.
Oh, okay.
So the lead single, Just the Way You Are, was originally offered to both Lupe Fiasco and CeeLo Green before Bruno Mars decided to keep it for himself at the last minute.
How is Lupe Fiasco gonna do Just the Way You Are? That's not a rap record.
It's not, which is very interesting because what would it have sounded like with Lupe Fiasco? Was he trying to do something a little bit more R&B-ish at that,
I don't know,
or
man.
pop-ish or whatever? But I would love to hear the CeeLo Green version of the song.
It's probably very good. CeeLo Green is an incredible singer.
Yeah. So another piece of trivia, the Marry You song was inspired by a Vegas trip where they just saw a couple getting married on a whim. And if you want to see couples get married on a whim, Vegas is the right place
Vegas
to
is the place to go. Yeah.
go.
Many movies have been made about it.
So I didn't know this, but I guess Bruno Mars, or when he was Pete Hernandez, when he was a little kid, he was an Elvis impersonator in Hawaii. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember reading that a long time ago. I think he might have been a Michael Jackson impersonator too.
Wow. I mean, I guess you could see both, right?
Yeah, for real.
Okay, so the album peaked at number 3. It did not go to number 1 on the Billboard 200. Just the Way You Are was a number 1 song. Grenade was a number 1 song. The Lazy Song made it to number 4. And we have 2 Grammys to Redux here
All right.
because he is involved in both the 53rd and the 54th Grammys because of the I guess the time frame in which the album came out. I
Right,
guess
because
later in the year.
the cutoff for Grammy Awards is usually like mid-September, mid to late September.
Okay, so the 53rd Grammys. Now, some of this is B.o.B related. I said we would talk about B.o.B a little bit more, but the 53rd Grammys, Record of the Year. Here are our nominations. Need You Now, Bellum. Nothing on You, B.o.B and Bruno Mars. Love the Way You Lie, Eminem with Rihanna. F You, the CeeLo Green song that we talked about. And Empire State of Mind, Jay-Z and Alicia Keys. Those are some pretty good songs there. Do you remember who won?
I'm pretty sure Lady Antebellum won.
Lady Antebellum won.
Those are 5 good songs. If I never hear Empire State of Mind again, I'm good. I mean, I love my city. I love my state. I love Jay-Z. I love Alicia Keys. I think today is her birthday, but I never, ever, ever want to hear that song again.
What about if Mary J. Blige was actually in the Alicia Keys place?
I mean, that might have been a better record.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm here for a let's redo that song and put MJB on it. I mean, my personal. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no. Who would which is the favorite of yours of those 5?
My pick would have been CeeLo.
It's kind of
And that
amazing.
song is just so.
Yeah, it's amazing that didn't win actually because of how big that song was.
The title of it probably did not help.
You mean F asterisk 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 U?
Yes.
All right, so for best male pop performance, Just the Way You Are, Bruno Mars. Haven't Met You Yet, Michael Bublé. This Is It by Michael Jackson. What year would Michael have performed that song?
I mean, he performed it. That song was originally recorded in the 80s, but because Mike died in 2009, and it was re-released. Well, not re-released. It was released for the first time in 2009. That's why what happened.
Me, Adam Lambert. Oh, I love that song. And Half of My Heart by John Mayer. Do you remember who won this one?
Did Michael Bublé win?
Bruno Mars won.
Oh wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay, now we go to the next year. So the 54th Grammys, Best Pop Vocal Album. Loud by Rihanna, Doo-Wops and Hooligans by Bruno, Born This Way, Lady Gaga, The Lady Killer, CeeLo Green, and 21 by Adele.
I mean, Adele won
Yes, that's why I
because
saved it for the
21
end.
by Adele was everywhere.
Won everything.
Yeah. I mean, those are four good albums in Lady Gaga, basically. Um, my vote probably would go to uh actually my vote probably would go to Adele.
Adele every year that seemingly she releases an album, she's able to
She just swept the
cultivate.
board.
Yeah, she's able to do it,
Yeah.
which is very, very, very strong for her. Like she's able to kind of go away, people forget about her, and she comes back, and they go, "Oh man, I love Adele," and she just starts selling records. Good for her.
Shout out to Adele. Shout out to Rich Paul.
Yeah. So Song of the Year, of course, Rolling in the Deep wins, but here are the other nominees: All the Lights, The Cave, which is a Mumford and Sons
Mumford and
song,
Sons, yeah.
Grenade, and a Bon Iver song called Holocene. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I think so.
Yeah.
So yeah, Adele won. I mean, Rolling in the Deep is an amazing song. All of the Lights is a really good song. Although, as a piece of songwriting, I don't know that it's a great song. Um, I mean, Rolling in the Deep and Grenade are probably the two best songs. The Grenade, I think, is one of like Bruno Mars' best written songs.
Yeah, and there's other categories that he was nominated in, but he's losing to Adele every single time.
Yeah,
But that
I mean, question for you, or for actually the people watching, listening, whatever. We talked about genre categorization earlier, and one thing that I love about Bruno Mars is that Bruno Mars is like, you could call him genre fluid, you could call him genre agnostic. Bruno Mars can basically make any kind of music,
Mhm.
which I love for him. And I also love as a music listener because I do think that people try to put stuff into boxes too much. And Bruno Mars could make a straight up rock record if he wanted to. He could, he made 24K Magic, which was essentially an R&B album. Silk Sonic also like very much an R&B album.
Yeah.
He could make like a pop record, like an adult contemporary pop record. He could do pretty much anything he wanted to do. And I love that for us as listeners and for him as an artist, I love that freedom.
Do you think there was a little bit of negativity early on because there was an expectation of maybe a little bit more of an R&B lean when the first album it's like a pop record, right? Like he had an idea of like I want to come out big and I want to cater to pop music, which was smart because the album was successful. And then like you said, you get that under you, and then you can kind of do whatever you want.
Right. I mean, I'm sure. I mean, he's caught flack for a lot of things, like
Like
because
like
people are
responding
willing
to negative feedback, trying to flex on people and stuff like that.
trying to flex on people. I mean, that's silly, Bruno. You're 5'2". Like, who are you flexing on, dog? Unless you hiding some stuff in the pompadour, you ain't coming after nobody. But like people are very quick to throw out the words culture vulture,
Yeah.
and Bruno Mars has certainly been called a culture vulture before, which I think is inaccurate. Um, but I mean, I appreciate the versatility of Bruno. Bruno can, come out on the Grammys and like All Purple and do a Prince tribute,
Mhm.
but he can do a song with Snoop and Wiz Khalifa too.
Yeah.
Like, and he fits into all of that stuff. So
And I think that kind of back to your point, I think what it says is that he, as a music listener, is not boxed in to one specific thing. He's got a wide ear, and
right,
thus, because of that, he knows the right sounds when he change it up a little bit.
Right. Right.
Okay, so the we're going to more than likely do an episode on the Silk Sonic album. At least I think we're kind of saving that because that is one of the records that post this
It's
time frame
it's on the list.
that we're kind of interested in. It's not in cement, it's not set in stone, it's not a done deal quite yet because I do want to do a little bit more research to make sure that that's the right album that's
Sure.
locked in. But so we're not going to talk a ton about the post Doo-Wops and Hooligans, but I do want to talk a little bit more, maybe more generically, about one of the things about an artist like this is they come out and they're brand new and they're fresh, and you're like, oh man, like this is what we needed. And then sometimes the follow up isn't fantastic. What did you think about his follow up?
I actually thought the follow up was better than the first album.
I think so too.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with him, every album is like you're peeling off like a layer a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, it's different enough that you don't feel like you're getting served the same thing you got served the last time, but it's similar enough that you're like, okay, it feels like a logical progression from one thing to the next thing.
Yeah, and we're talking about unorthodox jukebox, which is really hard to say.
I think that was the intention.
Right? It's like we're tongue tying up all of these DJs who have to be on the radio and say what your album is called. We're purposely doing this, but it shows growth. But I think what's hard is, and we see this because you can go historically and look at second albums, and sometimes second albums are failures, even if they're actually critically more
Better.
acclaimed than the first album.
Yeah.
But it's because the audience says, we liked this, we wanted to hear this, we did not want to hear this, which to me tells me that he understood his audience, or what he thought could become his audience, better than most artists, which is a skill in of itself.
I think it's a combination of things. I think, he is beloved enough by the industry that he wasn't really going to fail. I think he's beloved enough by the public that he really wasn't going to fail. And he's just very smart in knowing, like, he's smart with his visuals. He's smart with the people he collaborates with. And I think it just kind of like added up to, a pretty solid success.
And then the third album, did you also feel that it was a step or an even better album than the prior?
I don't. There's a couple of songs on 24K Magic that I'm just like, okay, skip.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, I
Because,
don't need perm.
well, this is where I feel with 24K Magic, where he was leaning a little bit too much into like what he thought the kids maybe would have wanted him to say. Um, that we'll talk about this in our top 5 segment, but I always thought when I saw Versace on the floor, I was like, okay. Somebody said that to him, and he was like, "Oh shit, I got to name one of my songs that." And then he decided to write the song after he had the title, because that's something a master marketer would do, is to try and find something that would be cool to say that no one has said before, and then create something out of that saying. But that's kind of that goes back to the corniness, but also the kind of the charmingness with him, and which is why I think, how old is Bruno Mars at this point?
Probably late 30s.
But he can still work with young artists. They don't see, he's kind of like maybe not today's day and age Pharrell Williams, but maybe like the 10 years ago Pharrell Williams, where I mean that brother still looks great, but he is a little bit older now. But you looked at Pharrell and you were like, I can't tell if that dude's 25, 35. They're doing a Lego movie about this dude. Like,
Right.
and he kind of seemed ageless, which allowed him to work with wide ranging of acts. And I sort of feel the same. it's like, I mean, he looks great. He looks young. He's
Yeah.
small-ish, so he kind of looks that helps his young status. And in our top 5 episode, we'll talk a little bit about the collaborations that he's able to do, and we'll talk about whether we like them or not. But I think one of the things about Bruno Mars is he is able to he is able to cultivate a career that began, 2010, like we've said. It is now 2026, 16 years in, and I don't feel like he's been aged out. I don't feel like he's uncool. I
Nah.
don't feel like he's over that his career's over and done with. I feel like he's like right still in the swing of things, which makes me interested in when the romantic comes out, because I definitely want to listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the monoculture doesn't really exist anymore, right? So he's one of those people that still has a monoculture type existence. I think it's like him and Taylor and Beyonce, and that might be it. Um, but it doesn't matter what race you are, you like Bruno Mars. It doesn't matter what gender you are, you like Bruno Mars. It doesn't matter what age you are. Grandparents can find something to appreciate about Bruno Mars. Parents, kids, like it's kind of he's one of the last few musicians who has like universal appeal.
And he's biracial as well, which helps, right?
Right,
Like
right,
like you go, oh, I'm sure there are certain races who claim him, and he's like, I'm not, but you can claim me, because that if that makes you like me better, then
right. It's
we're good.
he's super ambiguous in that way, um, which in at a time when particularly I feel like Hispanic artists should be a little bit more vocal. He's not, and that's kind of a sticking point. But
Yeah.
I do think that he's kind of a chameleon, right? He can kind of fit into anything. And the other thing I think that makes him as successful as he is that we talked about the Fugees being a cover band a
Mhm.
couple episodes ago, right? And I don't, off the top of my head, I can't think of any actual covers that Bruno Mars has released, but enough of his songs kind of sound like
Yes.
other songs. Like Locked Out of Heaven is straight up like a Police
Yep.
ripoff. Um,
Absolutely.
Uptown Funk, I think, actually got him sued for ripping off another song, Blurred Line style.
Yeah.
But, but I mean, I don't think he plagiarizes anything, but I think he tries to make songs that are reminiscent of other songs.
There I mean, it's a great point about Bruno Mars. When I listen to his music, I go, "That sounds like something else that I've heard before." And it makes me feel, um it feels familiar without being the same thing. I'm sure there's some
Right.
sort of trick to that, and that might be the future of AI, by the way.
I mean, I think it just means he's a good student of music. And even beyond that, like how many big hit records then have another record made as a response to it that also becomes a big hit? Like you talk about When I Was Your Man and then Flowers by Miley Cyrus, which was a response to When I Was Your Man. And I think that's something that would happen periodically back in the day, but hasn't happened in a long time. So it's interesting. Like he's a throwback and he's future at the same time.
What is your no skips rating for this album?
It's hovering somewhere between like a 6 and a 7.
Yeah,
Uh, that that
one
liquor store song is a definite skip.
I when I was listening to all 3 albums, by the way, I came
Mm,
away with just the feeling that these albums are good. I don't know that they're necessarily great. I don't know how I would rank them in that, but there are so many songs on each album that I really like.
sure.
And so I don't think it makes him a singles artist, because I think the albums are cohesive enough to where I really, really enjoy them, and I don't see them as like, "Oh, those are only 2 songs I like." But I did have that feeling of like, there's like 2 or 3 songs on each album that I really like, and then there are a bunch that I can stomach. that I'm okay with, and then there's some where you're
Right.
like, "Okay, this is kinda silly." But, yeah, I don't know what that says about him as an album artist, but, at least in my taste, because I think he's a successful album artist, you can just tell by his career. But that is one thing that
Yeah.
kinda stood out in my re-listens, because I hadn't listened to these albums back to back like that in a while, which is why I love doing the show, because it's a great exercise for me to go back and go, "Okay, what did I think about it then, and what do I think about it now?" And I think my feelings are pretty similar from 16 years ago to today on, what this album was. It was like it's like a B plus to me, and I
I,
think that's what it was back then too.
yeah, for me, it's like a B, and I think you kind of nailed it. You hit the nail on the head. Where it's like, I don't know that there's really a bad song on this, but there's two or three songs that I really, really like, and a bunch of songs that I can kind of take or leave.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so we'll talk a little bit more about our favorite Bruno songs on the top 5. I'm gonna dig in on some of the other music that he's been making outside of albums as well, and just thoughts on that in our top 5, and so this was a little bit of a shorter episode because I think we're gonna save some Bruno stuff for that Silk Sonic album.
But also short because Bruno Mars albums are historically
Right,
short.
right.
Like Doo-Wops and Hooligans is 10 tracks, and that might be Bruno's longest album.
Yeah, these things are like 40-minute listens, which is fantastic, by the way.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, all right. So, Mike and I will be back with the top 5 on Bruno Mars and his collaborations and all. And then we'll be back next week with our next album. We are not, because we're doing these kind of out of order, and I don't want to say what the next thing is because it may change. So that's it. It's not that I don't want people to be able to go, oh, I desperately want to hear that. Let me go back and listen to that album. It's just because I'm still trying to figure out the right process here. So, all
It's
right,
all right. It's a cliffhanger.
yeah, it's a cliffhanger. Maybe we'll probably, at least I hope, we won't. We'll go backwards a little bit because we've done a few 2000s albums of late, so we can go back a little bit, but I think we need to. I want to do something in the late '80s or the early '90s next, but don't hold me
I-
to it.
I'm down.
All right, that is it from here. So for Mike, I'm Double G. We'll see you when we see you. Peace out.